Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Back at it with the raw, unedited edited podcasts filming. I have some software I've been using that doesn't want to film with my webcam anymore, so I don't know what that's about. So might have to put something up for the last podcast episode because that didn't work out. So I am trying things a little bit different. Nonetheless, here we are with a new episode of NextGEN Medium, the podcast. You get to see the video version where I stammer and try to figure out what I'm going to say next or how I'm going to say it. And chaos ensues with people flushing toilets and my daughter Lucy dancing above us. She's got a skateboard now, so I told her, not on my wood floors. Whatever. Okay, so if you're new to all this, I'm Sarah Nickerson. I discovered my psychic intuitive. I'm already getting the word empath in my brain. Psychic intuitive mediumship abilities a couple years ago. Before that, I didn't even know I was invited into this world. I really wasn't aware. That's the toilet. I told you that was gonna happen. It's because I'm psychic. I saw it happening in the future. But anyway, so I was completely floored when I discovered that I possess these incredible abilities that only a select few have. And then I was like, there's no way that this isn't everybody's toolbox. And so I have grown an understanding. I have a truth that everybody has this stuff, and it's up to you to uncover it and discover it and let it be your truth. Maybe mediumship isn't a part of your skills, but maybe healing is. I don't know. You gotta test it to find out. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and I have a podcast, NextGEN Medium podcast. This episode is actually one of two episodes. We're going to be talking about empath. In the past, empath has been a thing for me. I've changed my point of view. I'm going to take advantage of using the word empath, and we're going to talk about the hard truths of the empath. That is the name of this episode. So we're going to commence the podcast. Okay. All right. Why did I do that? How am I going to start this? There are some hard truths out there, kids. I think that's how I'm going to start it. And then I'm going to do this. Maybe one of my hard truths was the word empath. So she's dropping beads. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, so that's my fault. One of my hard truths during this whole journey is that there's a trendy word being used, empath. So I had a rant that I had about why I was so irritated with empath because it's a trendy word, but does it speak to it being a soul ability? Do people understand that? Don't they understand that that's part of your intuition or your soul senses, your soul whatever, and people are just playing it off and not committing to being a part of the soul experience world stuff. I also saw it as a way of how do I say this? It was society's way of avoiding of talking about what it really is by using the word empath. But I've changed my ways. And so we're going to be talking about empath today. We're going to be talking about the hard truths of being an empath. Next episode, we're going to talk more about empath stuff because I have a lot of experience being an empath myself. And so there's lots to talk about because I know what to talk about with the empath stuff. So that's what this episode is about. The hard truths of being an empath on NextGEN Medium, the podcast. Hey there, my name is Sarah Nickerson. I do this podcast, NextGEN Medium podcast, where I'm trying to give you some awareness that you can actually be a part of the world that I'm in, because it's not exclusive. In fact, I believe there's a lot of things that I experience that you could experience too. I believe intuition is soul ability, and I believe that every single person in this world has it. Now, I think it's also plausible that you could be psychic, that you could have mediumship abilities, that you could have that you could even have healing abilities. These are concentrations of those soul abilities that these are more specific forms of those soul abilities that you could very well be very good at. All of them? Maybe. One of them? I think so. At least one of these could be yours. And it's waiting for you to visit, just like it was waiting for me for 33 years. And then I uncovered it, and now I still, 2 years later, 2-ish, a little bit more years later, I'm still blown away. I still can't believe it. I just did a reading today where there was lots of stuff in there where she was right there with me. She understood what all this stuff that was coming to me that I should not have known. The person I was reading, she was like, yep, you're right. It's just like, and then I get in it, and then I don't realize that kind of amazing stuff that's happening because I'm so in it. I'm so focused. But when I look back, and I can be like, I knew her grandmother was a dancer. Like, come on. Anyway, so yeah, this stuff could be yours. Step up to the plate. Let's do this. So let's talk about empath. Empath is one of those trendy words that we want to take quizzes to know if we are an empath. And then I've seen stuff like kinds of empaths. Which kind of empath am I? Like, I don't even know what that means, but it's out there. There's a lot of people searching for it. So I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to try to educate people and increase their awareness if they are looking for this word. So that's what we're talking about here. And I got your attention. You're here. So let me say my piece. Okay. So there was a time when I was pretty pissy about the word empath. I have since come to terms with the term in more recent days. So originally I disliked how people would use the word empath just willy-nilly, but using the term, but could be unwilling to reach further into the understanding of that empath experience that they have, that they continually have, as a result of your soul abilities. Knowing that that's a connection to the soul abilities that is perceived by society as being exclusive to some people. So I want people to be aware of this bigger, wider soul world that everybody's a part of, the world that seems unreachable, but you experience it. If you say that you're an empath, then you experience this soul world where information is webs of energy that you walk through, and then all of a sudden you're taking on someone else's emotion. You're taking that information, it's being impressed upon you, and it's affecting you. So another thing I worry about with empath is that people will accept themselves as an empath, but also will use it as an excuse that you were powerless to being an empath, that you are a victim because I'm an empath. And I'm here to say it sucks being an empath sometimes. It sucks. But you are responsible for its influence on you. Oh, Sarah, how dare you? Well, That's the truth of being an empath. Once you're aware of that you're an empath, your next step is to protect yourself. And if you can't do that, and I will provide you with that information, if you can't do that, then you will remain the victim of the tumultuous life of an empath. Lastly, here I am getting really semantic here, but empath, again, is a term that signifies a person, very similar to the word psychic. People use that as a person. When you're signifying a person, you're being exclusive. And empath, psychic, these are things that everybody can have access to exploring. Empath, everybody is an empath. It's the degree of an empath that is what makes people more sensitive to it than others. Or protecting yourself with your empathic abilities. Out of control empathic abilities. Okay, I said my piece. Things have changed. Now I'm going to take advantage of it. People who say they're an empath, listen up. We got some talking to do because it's not easy being an empath. There are some hard truths about it. But first, let's remind ourselves of Claire Empath. Let's remind ourselves of empath. What is that? Okay, so first things first. Empath is actually a soul sense. And a more appropriate term, Claire Empath. Okay, so you are one that senses by feeling other people's feelings. This can be emotional feeling. I feel sad. I feel happy. I feel confused. Or it can be physical, like physical pain. So I have had experiences where I have felt other people's pain, both other people who've passed on and are in spirits. I have felt their pain, and it actually helps me. It's evidential information that I can pass on along to the person in front of me. Or people just like you and me with bodies, I can feel their pain too. So I can see, first of all, this is a soul sense, a psychic sense, a meta sense, whatever word you want to put in front of sense. It's received through untraditional physical means and allows you to feel the emotions of others. This term also includes those physical pain things I was talking about. So I can see how this ability would fit in with mediumship and intuition concentrations. Not so much psychic, though. This term confused me in the past because of another soul sense, clairsentience, which is pretty much the same definition, sensing emotions. There doesn't seem to be a distinction with physical pain, that aspect, where Claire Empath takes that on, but clairsentience does not. But if anyone has a reason as to why there's two different terms for nearly the same thing, please email me. I would like some clarification. This is another example of inconsistencies we face in this soul world, trying to understand all this stuff. All right? Anybody? Does somebody know? Can anybody find me somebody to love? So I'm going to be sticking with Claire Empath, that side of things. Okay? However, because there also does seem to be a deeper sense that is felt when I see people describing the soul ability, we're going to be sticking with Claire Empath. So that is the Claire that goes along with empath, and it makes sense. Claire, empath. Don't want to confuse things, but clairsentience is a word too, and we need to acknowledge that as a soul ability. So let's dive into the burden of being an empath. The trouble with the empath ability is it can happen without noticing. It's an unconscious happening. It's an unintended transaction. Sometimes you don't realize you take on other people's emotions until you are feeling emotional. And then it's like, I'm angry. And then, some people just don't even realize that they take on the emotions of others. They may feel like it's their own emotions. They can't even distinguish that it's somebody else's or that they picked it up from somebody else. And as a result, the empath can be really confused. Why do I all of a sudden feel like such an angry person? And powerless on top of that. You didn't have control. And you don't know where it came from. So then you are a victim of your own emotions. So we have this instance of the logical and emotional chaos that one can have with clear empathy without being aware that this is even a thing, that this is an ability, that you have choice, that you can take control of this. And with that, that is a huge burden to the empath. And that this is an ability that you possess. It is not something that possesses you. Another hard truth about being an empath is living in a world, having relationships. For people around those with highly sensitive clair empath abilities, you can imagine that it can be very tumultuous. Those with uncontrolled clair empath abilities can seem dramatic or unstable, annoying, attention-seeking, crazy. One diagnosis that comes to mind when taking on the chaos and mood instability that I would connect uncontrolled clair empathy to would be bipolar disorder. I'm not saying that if you have clair empath abilities that you have bipolar, or if you are bipolar, then you are probably clair empath. But I am just putting it out there in the world in a holistic sense that there could very well be a connection between clair empath abilities and this diagnosis of bipolar. And you can imagine that it could be really hard for someone to be able to be sympathetic when they don't understand what's happening to the highly sensitive and unrecognized clair empath. Imagine being that highly sensitive clair empath who feels out of control. I don't feel control of my emotions. I think they're mine and they just possess me. And that is part of the burden of being a clair empath, is not only being that highly sensitive individual, but also trying to live and coincide life with people around you. So another way that being a clair empath is difficult is that you can become a reflection of the person that is sending those emotions to you. And with that could actually be something very undesirable for the person who's emitting emotions to get the same emotions back. Okay. So for people around those with highly sensitive clair empath abilities, it can be even more. Oh, I already said that. I meant to go here. So I like to think of it as someone is showing you emotion. They're like spitting it at you. And then you mirror that back to them. That can cause either continuation of high energetic emotions like joy and gratitude, but it does become a problem when we're dealing with low energy emotions that are being emitted, such as anger or insecurity. When that is being sent and you are receiving it and you're bouncing it back, You're taking on that emotion. It's becoming your emotion. You're reflecting back their emotions. So when people send off low energy, negative emotions, for they do it for different reasons. But in the case of manipulation, which a clear empath could certainly come across, this is where the highly sensitive clear empath can suffer consequences of reflecting negative emotions back to the sender. So I have a couple of personal stories with this one. And the first one starts with growing up as an empath. Growing up empathetic was not easy. My childhood wasn't terrible, but it had its troubles. I don't have traumatic feelings from my childhood, but there were behaviors that I learned in order to get through the difficulties of my environment, which made it even more difficult being someone who took on other people's emotions. Was I aware of this growing up, of this empath tendency, of this ability? No, I had no idea. It's only after I had this spiritual awakening and started getting into the soul abilities, started seeing its effects on myself, that now I can look back and be like, I was a sensitive kid. And I know of my clair empath abilities now because I've experienced them. So I can only assume that stuff happened in the past. One of my beliefs is that we always have this stuff. Okay, this is when we got to get a little personal here. So I made it through my childhood until I moved out after graduating high school. I lived in a house that was very intense emotionally. What's crazy is growing up in a house with high intense emotions, growing up to avoid dealing with it, and then moving on to the real world where everybody's pretty chill, nobody's high strung. That's definitely sends you for a loop. But why I bring this up is actually because of something my mom said to me. Now, my mom, I love her. But she said something to me once. She is a very emotional person, and really the cause for the intensity of emotion in the house that I grew up in. But she said to me one time, just 2 words, and it's really one thing that really made me want to talk about being an empath. And a few years ago, my mom brought up to me that I was a difficult child. I don't think I was really that bad. But for her, I was difficult. So as I reflect on this unfortunate set of words that I have seared in my head for the rest of my life, I recognize what was difficult for her. So she herself is an emotional person. Now that I've grown to recognize clair empathy abilities in my everyday life, I can imagine, like I said, that stuff was active in my childhood and into my adulthood as well. Maybe more primitive at first with a couple of emotions, but as you get older, emotions get a little more intricate, right? But more intricate, they become more diverse, and as you get older. So being a clair empath, I would take on her emotions. And as I got older, I got a little more brave, and her emotions would become a part of my emotions, and then I would give her a reflection of her emotions to herself, and right in front of her. And I would do it without even recognizing, without even feeling like I had control of it. And she did not like that. It would make her more angry. It would make her more intimidating and make her more confrontational too. And that would just get her more fired up. It wouldn't help the issue. She didn't want to see a reflection of herself. She wanted to see that the impacts of her feelings would result in control over me. So with time, I just avoided her because it was emotionally exhausting living in the same house with her. And everybody else would have to deal with this highly charged emotions for the rest of the day too. So I'm sure everybody would be pissed off at me. Another time that I had to deal with being a clair empath was actually with a boss that I had. And I remember going into a one-on-one meeting with him where he was giving me a list of ways to improve being his employee, but he was doing it in a way that was pretty pointed and kind of came out of left field. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'm a people pleaser. I want you to be happy. So here you are listing things off that I feel like is coming out of left field. And so I took it in. I was a champ. I was stunned, even feeling numb in my body, like endorphins were shooting through. But I think I was so focused on my internalizing of what was happening that I wasn't even aware of emotion that was going on in my face. But that's kind of one of my things is if I'm being told something and I feel like I'm in trouble, I go to super composed and just listen. Okay, so now I think about it and I think maybe he was fishing for a reaction with this ridiculous meeting, because eventually he looked at me exasperated and he said, I'm telling you these things and you're emotionless. I don't get it. I don't get it. So what he didn't realize, and I understand now, I understand this now. I didn't understand it at the time, but I understand now, is that he didn't realize my seeming indifference was actually a reflection of his indifference. And he hated that. He hated what was being mirrored back to him. He wanted to react. He wanted me to react to show that I cared about the terrible things he was saying to me. But instead, I reflected back what I was getting with emotions. And so, okay, this is how I'm going to do this. So those are a couple of examples of how being an empath can actually bite you in the ass. And by no means do you mean for this stuff to happen. But being an empath and an unknowing empath, not even knowing that this is an ability and these are other people's emotions, is really hard to deal with. You take on the negative energies of what other people are sending out. And there are times when you reflect it back, which, like I said, isn't going to help the situation. There are other times when you take it, you kind of internalize it, and then you think lesser of yourself. And then maybe you turn around and spew it all over the people that you love and trust, that you feel secure with. And that sucks. So, me saying all this means that you have the awareness now. But having the awareness that this is what can happen and being open enough to see that this as yourself is a step in the right direction. All right? So here's the deal. Final words on this. Here's the deal. Here's how you take control of your situation. Because you need to take responsibility. All right? What is happening is this is what's happening. All right. You got a bubble, right? You know how when we're in school, we got a put our hands out and you can't be touching the kid next to you because this is my bubble, it's my personal bubble. You kind of have a bubble. You have like an area where your energy lies. Okay? The energy that you're putting out. It's like a spider web that picks up things, and you can grow it and you can shrink it. So in the times that you are taking on other people's emotion, your bubble is way beyond you. Okay? That person is in your bubble. If they're across the room, then your bubble is really friggin' big. You need to pull that sucker in. You have control. This is how you have control. So, when you're noticing that you're being affected by someone else's mood, you got to draw that bubble in. How do you do that? You imagine. It sounds dumb. It's just stupid dumb. It's for real. I don't BS you, okay? Imagine in your mind's eye your bubble. You're taking on someone else's emotion. Recognize it. Good for you. That's probably the hardest part, because now you know what to do. You imagine that bubble in your eye, in your mind's eye, and you shrink it in. You just got to imagine that bubble is coming closer and closer and closer, and maybe it's got to be shrunk in past, your body's placement. I don't know how to say that, but you got to shrink it in. And it's that easy. And it sounds dumb, but it's true. I'm going to have more tips for you when it comes to being an empath, how to deal with being an empath, but just having that awareness that this is even a possibility could itself help you be an empath, but do it in a healthy way. Do it in a way that you aren't affected, that you are a happier person, that you're a more joyful person, that the people that live around you feel joy and happiness too. You are responsible for that too. And just knowing that this visual bubble is all you got to do, I don't know how much burden was lifted off of you, but I feel better. Okay, so you are responsible for your clear empathetic abilities. You know how it works. You know how to control it. Now you need to learn when it's happening and exercise your control. All right, so this is part 1. Part 2, we're going to be talking about a specific email that was sent to me by a follower. And she had... I want to go over her email because I like to think that when people email me, these are questions that like everybody has, So I'm going to go over her email. I'm going to go step by step. What's going on with her with this empathetic ability? How is she perceiving it? What is actually going on? How does it affect you? And then how do you handle it? And that we're going to go back over that responsibility, but moving forward, how do you avoid situations like that? So that's going to be the second episode. And till then, you are aware now. You are responsible. Get you through. I gave you that visualization exercise. Just that bubble. You got to shrink it in. But honestly, the hardest part is just even being aware. Just being aware. First of all, being aware that this is even a thing. But second of all, when it's happening, that's when your attention goes to the moment. And the moment, right now, that's happening right now, right now, right now. This is the key to happiness. This moment right now. Not all the stuff you're doing right now to plan for the future, which never comes. That thing is never here. Here is always here. Getting deep. Soul surfers, whatever that guy says. Soul swimmers. Okay. So next week we're going to dive more. We're going to use an actual example from somebody I did a reading for. And she actually came back to me after the reading with this question. Yes, give me the questions so we can talk about it. That's what we'll do for the next episode. We'll dive deeper into that. That does it for this episode of NextGEN Medium, the podcast. If you yourself are on your soul journey and want a hand to hold, I am ready to chat with you. Just book a development session with me. Go to my website, nextgenmedium.com. Hey, you want a reading? I love doing those. I like to do the psychic stuff, and I also talk with spirits. I also take a look at your energy. If you're on a soul journey right now, I love this part of a reading because I use my intuition to see how your energy flows in you. The stronger your energy is flowing, the more you are resonating with your truth, how strong your truth is in you, and where it kind of wavers a little bit. That's stuff we can talk about and that I can open up your awareness to. Oh, I'm getting all excited. You can tell by how fast I'm talking. But yeah, go to my website, nextgenmedium.com, book an appointment. Now, I will say I'm going out a little bit with appointments as this episode is being released. But nevertheless, put down a deposit and that will save the dates. You can find more at nextgenmedium.com, including my blog and my vlog, raw, unedited, uncut. And I'm on Facebook, Pinterest. What's the other one? Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. I actually put up a funny video this week that I thought was hilarious. Nobody else thinks it's funny, but I do. You can check that out. But follow me on those places. And until next time. Oh, you know what I got to do? I love doing this part of my podcast. I go to my website. I look at my analytics. I'm such a nerd. I love looking at analytics. I like to see where people are visiting my website. And let's take a look. The United States is number 1. And we're going to go to Oregon. Oregon. Boardman. And now I got to look. Boardman, because the way they listed, I think it's by counties. Oh, I could put Oregon. It's a city in Morrow County, Oregon. So I get to say Boardman, Oregon. It's like the same word. Oregon, Boardman, Oregon. I'm sure they're tired of that crap. Oh, New York State. Where are we going in New York? We're going to go to Brooklyn. All right. We're going to go to California. We're going to go to New York. I want another country. I like being international. Last week, I think I did Brisbane. Brisbane. New South Wales, Sydney. I did Sydney already. Let's go to Victoria. Let's see where we are in Victoria here. Keeps moving around. Melbourne. Melbourne. I gotta write these down so I can say it fluidly. So we're going to Brooklyn. We're going to Boardman, Oregon. We're going to Melbourne, Zealand, Australia. All right. I want one more. I like seeing the different places that people are from and that they even come and visit my stuff. Ooh. Canada's awesome. This is the most riveting part of the video, I'm sure. Oh, we're going to go to Edmonton, Canada. Edmonton, Canada. Let's get some wacky place that I didn't even realize. Look at that. India. Ooh, I can't say that. I might have to practice that one. In Norway, can I say that? Hedmark? Hamar? All right, well, it's in this at least. I got to work on some of these. I got Estonia, I got Ireland, Germany, New Zealand. Love my New Zealand people. I love you all. I do. Okay, let's see if I can put this in the podcast. And for all those listening in Brooklyn, in Boardman, Oregon, Melbourne, Australia, and Edmonton, California. I put CA like an idiot. And Edmonton in Canada, eh? Have a great rest of your day, and I'll chat with you again soon. See ya. Bye. All right, we did it. So I have this habit where I keep making these hour-long episodes, which is cool, but not cool. So I'm going to try to do half hours. Half hours. All right. Hey, that's it. I wanted to add something to the background. And with my last episode, I had something very specific, so I'm going to save that for next episode. I think we're going to skip that for now, unfortunately, as much as I want to commit to that. Maybe there will be a point when I have a business address that I can have people send me stuff that I can tack up over here. All right, kids. Oh, we're at a new beginning, and it feels so good. I feel so relieved. There's still lots of hard work ahead, though, so stay with me and increase that awareness, will you? You're doing good. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.